Mr. Ambassador, thank you very much for this interview with Kurdistan24. It's an honor for me to have you again.
Glad to be with you.
Thank you. Right, let me ask you about the speech of Mr. Masroor Barzani today in the forum. How do you look at it? What do you see in his speech, what he addressed?
He made some very important points in his speech.
Yes.
Obviously, this is a forum on Middle East peace and security at a time that there's a major conflict in the Middle East. And while he expressed support for the Palestinian people and for a two-state solution, he made a very important point. If the Palestinians deserve a state, well,
yes.
don't the Kurds also deserve a state? And people in Kurdistan have voted 92.3% for
yes.
independence in a binding referendum that everybody knows was completely free and fair. Exactly the same arguments that apply for a Palestinian state apply for a Kurdistan state. If you can have a two-state solution, as he supported, as is supported by the United States, by the European countries, by most of the world,
yes.
of Israel and Palestine on that territory, shouldn't there also be a two-state solution on the territory of Iraq, reflecting the democratic will of the people of Kurdistan? And frankly, I'm quite sure that if there is a two-state solution between Iraq and Kurdistan on this territory, it will be far better relationship, far more normal, a relationship between two neighbors, kind of like the Czech Republic and Slovakia, rather than two states that are hostile to each other. It will be a factor for regional security. One other point he didn't make, but I have often made,
yes.
is some people have tried to justify what Hamas did, killing 1,200 Israelis, by saying it's justified by the Israeli occupation. Well, I could say there's never a justification for the mass murder of civilians, kids attending a music festival, people in their homes. This was a crime of unspeakable proportions. And yes, the Israeli occupation and treatment of the Palestinians in the 56 years since the 1967 war has been terrible. But other people have been oppressed even more. The Kurds have been oppressed for 70 years in Iraq, from 1920 to 1991. And they didn't go out and massacre civilians.
Yes.
They didn't go out and commit terrorist acts. And so, surely good behavior deserves also to be acknowledged.
Mr. Ambassador, I understand Iraq doesn't like or doesn't allow Kurdistan to be independent. But the question is, why the European countries, why America doesn't support Kurdistan to get their own independence? In the meantime, they ask for Palestine independent. What's the reason behind that?
Well, clearly it's not based on factors of justice or national self-determination, because the people of Kurdistan in Iraq have every bit the same right as the Palestinians. Of course, there are already 22 Arab states.
Yes.
Palestine would be 23. There's no Kurdish state. Surely, as a matter of justice, the people of Kurdistan are entitled to a state. As a matter of democracy, they've voted to have their own state. So the part of the reason is the United States and the other major countries always like the world as it is. They don't want to have to change things. But the reality is that when things do change, this is accepted. The United States tried to hold together Yugoslavia in 1991. Even a week before Croatia and Slovenia declared independence, Secretary of State Baker went to Belgrade, the capital of Yugoslavia, told the leaders don't break up the country. A week later they did, and 9 months later the United States recognized the result. The same thing, the U.S., George Bush Sr. tried to hold Soviet Union together. When it broke up, they recognized the result. So, that's the way it works as a practical matter. I understand at the moment we're not looking at independence, but exactly the same issues that led to the referendum in 2017 exist today. You have the failure to honor provisions of the Constitution. Mm-hmm. We had a panel here about resetting the relationship between Baghdad and Erbil. Well, one of the basic issues that's in the Iraqi Constitution is that all the regions and governorates should get a share of Iraq's oil revenues according to their population. And it's not for Baghdad to say how it's spent. I mean, Kurdistan can decide, is it spent on schools, is it spent on roads, is it spent on salaries? That's Kurdistan's decision to make. And if the people of Kurdistan don't like what the Kurdistan government's doing, they can vote for them, a new government, a new party, whatever they want. That's democracy. And yet that provision has been totally ignored. Baghdad is voting about salaries. It has no business to vote about salaries. The money by the Constitution ought to come to Kurdistan automatically. Of course, Baghdad's failed to respect the provisions about oil and gas, which clearly state that the oil and gas in Kurdistan are to be managed by the government of Kurdistan, not by Baghdad. Right. There's no dispute about that. That's black and white. The Supreme Court, it's not even constitutional. The Article 92 of the Constitution says that the Council of Representatives must establish a Supreme Court by 2/3 vote. Why was this provision there? So to be sure that the Supreme Court would really be an honest court, that it would follow proper judicial procedures, that its members would be representative of the different people of Iraq, that it would not interfere in certain areas. This Supreme Court, which isn't even legal, it is unconstitutional, does things like throw out the Speaker of the Parliament. Well, that's the business of the Parliament, not a court. It has ruled that the Kurdistan Parliament is unconstitutional. Well, I'm sorry, that's not for the federal Supreme Court. If it goes to court, it's for the Kurdistan Supreme Judicial Council. And case after case, of course, invalidating the Kurdistan oil law, which is clearly constitutional. And a court itself is unconstitutional. Well, all these problems now create a new question in the minds of people in Kurdistan. Can we really stay in Iraq?
Right. Mr. Ambassador, without solving a Kurdish problem in the Middle East, do we see a peace and security and stability in the Middle East?
The morning panel was, the question was, is the Middle East condemned to endless conflict? And the answer that we heard from the panel, and I agree with it, is yes, unless it can solve its problem. And we had, so many distinguished speakers there, including, of course, the Foreign Minister of Iraq, Fuad Hussein, and
Yes.
Hoshir Zabari, and this is their conclusion. As well, unless the problems in the Middle East are solved, it's endless conflict. And what are these problems? Well, yes, clearly the problem between Israel and the Palestinians, that is a source of conflict since 1948. There needs to be a solution. It's very clear what the solution should be: 2 states, based more or less on the 1967 boundaries. Some changes now because the reality has changed, but with some similarities, certainly equal territory.
Yes.
As in 1967. Second, those who committed the terrible atrocities like Hamas need to be punished, but Israel has also been violating the rules of war. The use of force has not been proportional. You can't bomb hospitals, even if they're military people. You can't bomb a hospital. So what it's been doing has been caused needless civilian casualties and has violated the rules of law. So we need to, this kind of conduct has to stop. Terrorists have to, like Hamas and ISIS, they're the same. Daesh and Hamas, they have to be, dealt with. And then other problems like Kurdistan. Iraq, I said Israel, 48 to 2023. Iraq, the problem's 1920 to 2023.
Yes.
So if you don't solve the Kurdish problem in Iraq, if you don't respect their right to self-determination, then you aren't going to have peace. There's the question of Iran, which exercises excessive influence in Baghdad. Personally, I have to say I would like to see Iran have better relations with the world, and including with the United States. I've followed Iran professionally all my life. It's a great country. It's a great civilization. People who don't go there don't understand how diverse it is, how many different voices, even in the Iranian government. They don't understand how many people dislike the mullahs. And the U.S. and Iran, we don't actually have any fundamental conflicts. The U.S. got rid of the Taliban in 2001. That's what Iran wanted. We got rid of Saddam Hussein. That's what Iran wanted. Iran couldn't do it. America did it. And then who came to power but religious parties that were aligned with Iran? Why should we be having this kind of conflict? It's all because there are voices in Iran and political parties where they shout death to the USA and they think that's good politics. And there's some of the same thing in the United States. But let's, and that would make for a more peaceful Middle East.
Okay. Mr. Galbraith, thank you very, very much
for
this interview.
Such good questions, my pleasure.
Such a great honor for us.
Okay.